Welcome to another episode of Resortera Wave. We're going a little bit different. We've been doing a lot of pilot runs with Oscar. We did the audio thing, then we went to the live of the Mexico-Colombia game last week. So this week we have a plan, or sort of sense a topic just to look at closely. In the last, I want to say 72 hours, I watched the 2012 gold medal game. And also the 2013 Mexico-US game when everything was just totally bizarre with El Tri. El Tri was on the verge of not going to the World Cup. That's how bad it was. But then I coached that game in Columbus. Tena, Chavita Reyes, Yayo de la Torre were on the benches. The only one that was removed was Chepo de la Torre. So it brought to my mind this whole idea of like, do Mexican managers really have that much patience, in especially with El Tri? Like, are they giving the same patience to what we're seeing with Tata Martino and also 4 years ago with Juan Carlos Osorio? So, I want to give a welcome to Oscar. Oscar, thanks for joining me, like always. I mean, always great to hear from you. Initial thoughts on this sort of topic that we're going to try to touch today.
No, I love it. It's an interesting idea. It's a great dialogue more than anything. Because I feel like I think what we do well in a sense. I'm not saying we're like, we deserve a big contract or something, but hey, maybe we do.
Nah.
But we talk stuff that maybe that's not the main focus. What's the little other pieces to the puzzle to the Mexican football? And this is just a great dialogue in my opinion. Like I said, I was telling you off there, I have notes specifically on this since before then, but because we're already rambled with what we're always talking about.
We already made some initial talks about this before recording. I mean, just to make it clear, 1999, the Confederations Cup, the coach was Manolo Lapuente. 2005 U17 World Cup, the coach was Chucho Ramirez. 2011 with Potro Gutierrez, was it? With Potro Gutierrez, the U17 World Cup? Potro Gutierrez was Mexican. 2012, Flaco Tena won the gold medal, Mexican manager. Recently, Jimmy Lozano, Mexican manager, leads El Tri to a bronze medal in the Olympics. The biggest successes in Mexican football, or in terms of El Tri, have been with Mexican managers. Then why are they not giving patience? Look, we're going to see the first 10 minutes of that Mexico-US game, which finished with another 2-0 in Columbus, Ohio. And the reason I'm putting this game is because just the sheer intensity that El Tri showed really caught my eye. Everything was really bad for El Tri at this moment. They were on the verge of not going to the World Cup. Chepo had been fired. But nevertheless, they had to go to Columbus and try to put a fight. The two goals that the U.S. scored were scored in the second half, one off of a corner kick that I think Corona could have done better. I think it was a mistake from his part there. And the other one came out of un saque de manos. So you can't concede goals when it's a saque de mano. But we're going to see those first 10 minutes just to see a little bit tactically what Tena tried to do, how good El Tri looked, in general. Chaco Jimenez started that game, just to put it out there. And now Chaquito might play in the World Cup. So I think it's a really good game to see. I'll share the screen real quick. Let's see if this time I don't make the same mistake I did a couple of days ago. You see it, Oscar?
Yes, perfect, Naib.
All right, let me just put it a little bit full screen. So there we see the start. I think it was more like a 4-4-2, Oscar, no? Based on my observations.
Yeah, that's what Tena did at the Olympics too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, especially in the final. Here, Zavala played the role of Chaton Enriquez because Chaton Enriquez, so we're going to go back to the 2012 game as well because I think tactically that game with Tena was pretty special. Boom, Oscar is already excited of how good the tactics
sorry
were.
About that. I dropped him.
Yeah. Fernando Arce started also in this game in the midfield. But, they're familiar faces here. Guardado's going to be in this World Cup. Hector Moreno is going to be in this World Cup. Flaco Reyes could have been in this World Cup had his time in Europe not been the way it has. It turned out to be, unfortunately. But I just wanted to see the intensity that El Tri shows here. A lot of the pressing triggers that they showed in the gold medal final against Brazil, they're shown in this game as well. I think this is sort of the DNA a little bit of El Tri. Here is Chaco Jimenez right there. First offensive play, 1 minute and 15 seconds. They create a play in the final third. I don't think, how many games did Chaco start with El Tri? I think it was maybe 2 or 3 or
2 max.
Yeah, but it wasn't that
he
many.
Came off the bench a couple of times. I know he came up against Costa Rica too, away when we thought we were out.
There's across from Giovanni. I really like Giovanni's minutes in overall his performance was really outstanding from Gio. He showed a lot of grit. One of the surprising things here, Guardado's in the midfield, a little bit pulled to the sort of a little bit more as a left midfield, left winger, no, in that 4-4-2. But he had a lot of erratic passes actually in this one. Now you can see the lineup for the US. None of those are going to this World Cup. They're all out.
How many do we have here? None? 2? Moreno
and Guardado, bro.
Yeah.
Giovanni could have been in this World Cup.
Yeah,
and of course Chicharito Hernandez. Surprising, Salcido starts as a left back in this game. I personally would have put him in the midfield, like he put him in the gold medal game. But I believe that, I think Tena wanted to respect the US a little bit more and decided to put Salcido as a left back. But at this point in Salcido's career, he was a midfielder. Rarely played as a left back at this point.
Yeah, definitely. So who's the center midfield, Naib? Zavala
and Arce.
Arce, okay.
And then
Chaco
and Gio were sort of interchanging on the right, and on the left it was Guardado.
You know what? Side note, I don't think Arce was horrible in the qualifiers. I thought he was he always gave a 7 out of 10 performance when he was starting in the qualifiers. He's one of those players that got scrapped, unfortunately.
And there was many that got scrapped.
Chaco too, even Chaco did. I thought that Chaco did good too.
So right there we see the moment. The ball is Mexico's ball. The first minutes. Mm-hmm. Now there's Chicharito. One of the things that stood out from me for on this game for Chicharito is how fast his thinking was compared to the rest. But there were few players that were on his speed, and unfortunately he really didn't get that many balls in the box. But every time he would receive the ball, he was fast, and it really, you could tell how well he was doing in his first years in Europe, and I think that's something. It's the contrast, he wasn't scoring with El Tri, but you could tell that there was some good things there. Another corner kick for El Tri.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll comment after this. If I'm not mistaken, too, this particular year, he was already at Real Madrid, no?
Yeah,
so imagine training with those. I mean, he wasn't playing at all, but imagine training with those players, those elite caliber of players. Every day in training.
So right there, Moreno had a shot. In the first half, Donovan ni olió el balón. He didn't do not anything with the ball. They were just, it was a very, very, very intense from El Tri. And this is the thing. In the gold medal game against Brazil, El Tri scores literally in the first seconds of the game, and that changes radically the whole outlook of the game. I think here, then I would have hoped that the goal would have come in the first 15 minutes, but it didn't. But they did everything right for the goal to come. There we see even the long ball, the long ball that Salcido tried to throw there to Giovanni. Here you see a little bit of how the role flowed. With Giovanni was sort of like a second striker, type of deal.
I see Salcido tucking in more, kind of being inverted, and then Guardado pushing out more wide.
Yeah,
there's a backline of 3 at times, depending on where the ball is. Right now, Salcido's in the backline of 4. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Moreno goes all the way to the, and look at that ball from Moreno to
That first
Chaco and
touch
then
there.
Giovanni. Maybe if Arce would have ran a little bit more to get in front of Beasley.
Not mistaken, 6 minutes in, and the ball's literally been in the U.S. territory, and this is against a team right now this is an El Tri team who was catastrophic in the qualifiers right now, right?
Yeah, everything was bad. It couldn't.
Low
It
on
was
confidence. We're not
not
playing well. Look how we're playing.
exactly. Here, Guardado tries a pass that was a little bit erratic. Guardado didn't have the pass that he, at this stage in his career, he still didn't hone the pass as well. I think he worked that out with PSV. That's where everything changed it. This is
If
a
I'm
play. This
mistaken too, I don't think he was playing a lot too with Valencia at the time, and then he made like that late move to
to
Leverkusen
Bayer.
where he was playing like as a left back too. I think that
Mm-hmm.
also played a big part.
Good point there. Yeah, here it's a moves. This is the longest possession, and then right away, you see how Moreno right
Yeah,
there
yeah,
stepped.
yeah, yeah.
And here we go again. Arce with the ball right there. Chaco, Arce. I think that is. Ooh, that could be Mier actually. So you
Yeah.
see there another shot. Not the best shot possible, but it was still an attempt.
It's still putting that pressure there. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just the intent of to do something, getting forward, freak them out a little bit, get them on their toes.
Yeah, and in Columbus, no, and it looked
Mm.
packed. It was a pack. It looked sold out. There was a little bit section of Mexicans there, but that was predominantly a U.S.
That's
men's
one of my
national team
biggest
crowd
regrets. I never attended one of those games. I've always wanted to,
at
but
this stadium
hmm
because now they got the new one.
yeah, I was just too broke to. I was a broke college kid
Yeah.
in school to even like right now. I have the luxury to doing so, but right now it's not. We're not gonna have any of this for a long time now, especially with the 48
Yeah,
team
and this
after
video's on YouTube.
2026.
So if you just want to watch it, you put it there, the game, the date, the score line, and you should be able to find it the first half and the second half.
Nice.
So I
I
mean
didn't know
that's
this one was up because I do remember watching this game, and I don't think we were because I remember what was I think a junior in high school, and talking about it with some of the kids on my team and the few American kids that were on my team, talking about how we went to Columbus despite all the circumstances. If we played the way we did, we played like I don't know, we just played with a lot of
yeah, with
we played
honor,
like the
no?
protagonists,
Exactly.
we play like we were the
Look
one
right
on
here
top.
how Chicharito brought the ball down. And the battle right there, it isn't about he. I know that he's a forward that needed to score, but that's a lot of skill to bring it down,
Mm-hmm.
to take on the attack, and to create this free kick, which I think Chaco takes. Chaco had a bullet of a rocket of a leg, no, and then he could just like.
Mm-hmm. That's
So I think that
he
was one
had
of the
those in him.
ideas. Yeah, that was one of the here. Tena gave him permission to, if you have a free kick, just shoot, and he took it. I mean, unfortunately, none of them went in. But look at the distance, and he still made it. I'm not gonna say it went a little bit over the board, but there it's sort of like, okay, it's Chaco. Let him take it, but also you can say, well, maybe you should have had a prepared play because it was too far.
And this is a little bit older Chaco too. Imagine we had got him a little bit, maybe 2 years earlier,
Yeah.
because he was like the light of hope, the little light of hope that we had at Cruz Azul at the time.
See here, the 4-4-2 kind of looks pretty evident, no?
Yeah.
And then the pressing triggers weren't as intense. I think they could have been a little bit more intense. I think they gave permission. They gave a little bit of leeway to the U.S. to take the ball from the back. I think if they would have pressed a little bit tighter, one mistake should have at least happened because they weren't that sharp with the ball on their feet.
Yeah, especially I'm assuming the first 10.
Yeah.
Was it like this the entire first half, Naib?
Most of the first half, it was all Mexico. And then, the first half ended 0-0, unfortunately. But here, Hector Herrera played also in the second half, so maybe you could put him in from the start instead of maybe Arce. But I think Arce, the leadership maybe played a role, the experience maybe.
Mm-hmm. And ojo aquí, if I remember correctly, Tena didn't want to take part. They didn't want to take the job. He didn't even want to do this match. He just did it because the country called upon him.
Yeah.
And I think he was just unlucky, the result, but the way we played, I really like the fact he incorporated how many 5-6 players of the Olympic team into this game in general. My only criticism, he should have just put the team that won the Olympic gold medal to this match.
And
That was
just
my
go
only
with it,
criticism.
no?
Just go
Yeah.
with it. If you're only gonna, you don't even want to do it in the first place. This is gonna be your only game. Just do it. Maybe add a Carlos Vela in there too. Maybe convince him.
Imagine. No, imagine Carlos being in this. The team would have even looked better, no?
Him and Gio up top. Ooh. Gio was doing good too this season with Villarreal.
Yeah, and Villarreal, he was amazing. He was one of the best in Spain at this point.
I mean Gio. If you can see it, I got the Tottenham Dos Santos jersey there.
Yeah, so here, look, the Zavala all the way forward. I think Zavala could have been a little bit more daring and sort of what Chaton did against Brazil. Chaton was all over the place, especially forwards. He was one of the ones pressing.
You know what I really liked about this Illustrate team too, and Tena's press in general. His press wasn't necessarily into the final third of the opposition. It was more get the midfield congested and press there. Don't let them progress when their midfield has the ball there at the midfield. Because starting all the way at the goalie's box, you're gonna take a risk there. I mean, I hope you saw the Man United game. You saw that trigger point where they tried to press too high and they weren't as organized, and then they got exposed.
Yeah.
But Dennis' team was a little bit more disciplined. They wouldn't pressure, like I said, right at the goalie's box, and they're particularly in their final third, but right in the midfield area. That's where they were like they didn't let you breathe. And I also watched, because you watched it. I watched the game too. I watched the first half last night and then second half today during my break. And it was just an interesting game, especially the first half more than anything. I think we fell off. I think Brazil were unlucky not to score early in the second half.
Yeah,
if
that's
I'm being
true.
honest.
Yeah, so it's part
But
of the
that
game
first
as
half
well.
was
It's that sort of
tough.
luck, no? That you also have to have that sort of luck. I mean,
Exactly, yeah.
The way that Oribe scored that first goal, the press that Javier Aquino did on Rafael, and then just like got it going. But after watching that, tactically, it looked solid for El Tri. They just missed the goal. And then I asked myself, what would have happened if they had won? Like you said right there. I mean, there was a respect factor that they came together in, so it would have looked bad if he had stayed or whatnot. But the thing happens. Look, they put in Bucetich to be the the bombero, and then what happens? He doesn't succeed in the qualifiers in those last games, and then they fire him, and then they bring in Piojo Herrera, who was doing, not amazing. He was doing okay. He was doing great with America, but it wasn't like astonishing, no? Because at the time also Leon was doing great in Liga MX. So in comes in Piojo, and he takes over this team, and they do solid in the World Cup. They beat Croatia, and they almost beat the Netherlands. But the point of this, podcast or show, whatever you want to call it, is reviewing that sort of, why isn't there that much patience with the Mexican manager? No, considering that the biggest successes in Mexican football have been with Mexican managers. I mean, what do you think the case is? Is it, Oscar? Is it because they're paying a lot for the foreign manager, or does it look better, or does it sell more? Is it better for business to have a foreign manager than a Mexican manager? I mean, I'm not getting it. It's not working for me right now.
Mm-hmm. I wish I would have an answer now, but I have no idea, to be honest. I think I don't know. It's hard to dissect. I mean, like I think you hit the nail right on the head there, and I think that's just in general. I mean, my notes from way back when, um, the teams that have gone to win the World Cup for each respective nations have always been from that nation, and I think it's not that I'm against the foreign coach or anything. Like like me personally, even without the came, it's not even like a nationalistic like you're not welcome to my country. It's just more
Yeah,
like we got to get to a point where we need to believe in ourselves more than anything. Not to sound cheesy or cliche, but like we have to get to a point where we have to
accept what
identify
we
our
are,
own.
no?
Yes, accept who we are, identify our own style. What is Mexican soccer? Brazil is jogo bonito. Germany has this, this
Italy,
great
for
organization
example.
structure. Italy is the art of defense. Mexico needs to pick their own, and I think we've seen it in some of those wins. Even going, if I can go real back to the under 17, the one with Gio in them, the first one, they were very similar as well. That first half, they were kind of like I think Brazil were surprised by the way they came out of the game because they were like these guys are from the Concacaf region. I mean that too. I think that too. A lot of teams underestimate Mexico too because you look at the Concacaf region. I mean, with all due respect, what other team besides Mexico historically has given the elite of the elite teams a run for their own? With the exception, I think the USA mostly
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
closest, and but even them, they've never
It hasn't
really.
been consistent with the US. That's the thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in the 1930s or whatever, I think they did beat, did they defeat England? I mean, I might be historically wrong here, but they gave,
The closest one I could think is
yeah,
the Confederations in 2009 against was it Spain, and
yeah,
then Brazil,
yeah.
and
They in Brazil, they were winning
they
two
did
zero.
decent, but yeah, but they weren't like it's not like us where we go out and try to play. It was more like, in my opinion, going back to it, I have to watch the match again, but it was more like they capitalized on their chances. They defended really well. They were stubborn, and then when they capitalized on chances compared to Mexico, you saw. I mean, you see the matches like we're like the protagonists of the game. You want to take control of the game. We're creating. I mean, the first 6 minutes, there's two chances already in
Yeah,
that we just saw.
yeah, no, no. And in 1950, that's when the US beat England in a World Cup. So just to be historically correct there. But
Yeah.
the thing here that is really important to say, and I think you hit the point, Oscar, is we need to find our style. El Tri really has to define their style with a Mexican coach, because we've had so many names in history. Like I mentioned earlier, Manolo Lapuente and what he did. In Mexico they talk a lot about like Lapuentismo and La Volpismo, like those ideologies. La Volpe, to a certain extent, even if he was Argentine, even he's Argentine because he's still alive, he was made in Mexico. No, he was a goalkeeper in Atlante. He got his first, I believe, his first coaching career job in Mexico. So he's Mexican, sort of like Tuca Ferretti as well. Is these sort of figures that came from Argentina and or Brazil and made it in Mexico. So we can sort of consider them Mexican in a way, because of the many years they've been there. They got kids and everything and family and all that stuff. But you know, I think it's important to note that the foreigners in the last 8 years with Osorio and Tata, they've gotten a lot of patience and sort of leeway to do whatever they want. No, like I'm not gonna lie, the 7-0 against Chile, if it was a Mexican manager, I'm pretty sure they would have gotten the boot.
Okay, but devil's advocate here, Naive,
Yeah,
in a sense. I think the circumstances with Chepo compared to even Osorio, I think they're drastically different. First of all, that Copa America wasn't supposed to technically happen. It was more like I don't want to say it was a marketing ploy, but
yeah,
because it was going to that Centenario, they made it to the US, they made all this money. It was a competitive Copa America, don't get me wrong, but first of all, we're supposed to compete in it, I guess. And Osorio did well in the qualifiers, and that's what the main objective was to qualify for the World Cup
yeah,
and do un buen papel in it. He was the first one to qualify first for God knows how long, 94. He did better than La Volpe. La Volpe is
That's
praised and
true.
loved. Tata the same thing. He qualified with first place, tied against apparently the greatest generation of Canadian players ever. They have a player who's playing on Bayern Munich, guys competing for the French title over there. We finished above against a U.S. national team who, on paper, have more players in Europe playing in more established leagues, and we finished above them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and then Chepo. Let's go to Chepo. What
It
were
was
the
just
circumstances
disastrous.
there?
It was disastrous. It was on the
And
verge of not
what
going to
was
the World Cup.
everything there? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think we got to look into that too.
But also, do you think though that with these managers, Martino and Osorio, there has been substantial growth in the style of play of the Mexican national team? Because at the end of the day, they bring them for a reason, no? They bring them
Yeah.
because their preparation, their expertise, their coaching staffs are better than what we have in Mexico. I mean, that's
No.
technically
Short
it.
answer, no. Yeah. Short answer, no. Because at the end of the day, they
They
have an
finished the same
objective.
way, round of 16 exit,
Yeah.
which I know that also we kind of exaggerate. We're like, we're not even supposed to be in the round of 16 in the first place because of how football is working at the moment.
I
You
think
come,
we are. We can shoot for that. It's
yeah,
shooting
yeah,
for. Remember when the FIFA rankings came out and we were like 8th or 9th recently?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I say this with love. We are not a top 9 nation in the world. I could have named 9 different nations who were higher, who would beat us
Historically,
easily.
historically as well, you got to put. I think the history is also very important to put there. It's sort of like if you're gonna put top 10 national teams, some of them have to have Euros, some of them have to have World Cups won. That's when we put, El Tri has. This is the thing. El Tri has, they made the quarterfinals when the World Cups were played in Mexico, but out of Mexico, Costa Rica already made a quarterfinal appearance. The U.S. already made a quarterfinal appearance in this millennium. So, like, it's that sort of the way that I'm pointing it or painting it is I'm not sure if these managers, Tata and Osorio, are really making massive changes. I mean, maybe Osorio, he integrated a lot of the mental aspect, the psychological aspect, but then you saw the team against Brazil, and they were just what happened to the psychology guru that they brought in? I mean, it was the same as 4 years ago, the same as 8 years ago. So it's sort of like, to what extent is it important to have a Mexican managed coaching staff? No, that they know how the Mexican footballer thinks, because we saw it with Tena in the gold medal game. I mean, you saw how Chaton played, how Marco Fabian played, how he managed that whole team, how that whole team was together. It's very hard to pinpoint moments of the Mexican national team that it looked exactly like that,
Yeah.
at any level.
It's a tough one. It's a complicated one.
It's a
I mean,
complicated
you
one.
you can even go to Liga MX, Naib. How many Liga MX managers are there to foreigners? The last final that just got played, who were the managers? An Argentine and Uruguayo, ¿verdad? Or am
Mhm.
I wrong there?
What was
The
yeah,
man, the
yeah,
man who brought one of the best stories of my life recently, Juan Reynoso's from Peru.
yeah,
Oh, and right here too, Potro Gutierrez, who's with us right now. He won the under 17 World Cup, right? And then he got to a final as well. He lost it against Nigeria. I forget what year it was. It was with Raul Godinho when they went to a penalty shootout against Brazil, like in semifinals, like 11 penalty shootouts, and then they lost to Nigeria. And he's never had an opportunity in first division ever, up until recently.
yeah. Why did it take so long? And this is not, personally, because, for example, when Bucetich came into the national team, Bucetich had won so many leagues with Monterrey, but maybe the style that Bucetich implements doesn't fit the style that the national team try to do, no, or vice versa, no. And also
he was put in a hell of a predicament too, though.
yeah,
Like, come on, dude. Like, there's only so much he could have done.
Man, and then because why didn't you leave him for the playoff against New Zealand? I mean, even I'm pretty sure.
Naive, they panicked. The FMF, they saw their dollars going away. That's why. Let's be honest too. That too. I think that also plays a factor, even though it's not completely all undone, but it is a factor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At this point, I've mentioned to you before, like football is becoming more of a business rather than a sport. I think it's 60% sports, 40% business, but we're inching up there to where the business is more important than the sport. So it was hard to tell.
For that, and I think hopefully when we put this out there in the comment section, you can share your opinion on this topic, because I think it's important. It's not to say that uno's bien nacionalista and you don't accept the foreigner. I mean, to be honest,
no, it's not. It's nothing like that. I don't.
No, because I said it. I mean, Lilini is a candidate to coach El Tri.
Director or something. He knows
because how he treats the Mexican footballer, how he makes them better. That's, I think, very important with Lilini. I also said a couple of weeks ago that if Julian Lopetegui is given the put by Lo Corren de Sevilla, I think he does become a candidate, but it looks like he might end up going to Wolves now. So
I like him, but I wouldn't want him with the national team.
That's sort of the thing. It's so if El Tri goes for a Mexican manager after Tata, who's the most? I mean, are we gonna go back to Piojo? You think? Or
I hope not. But
is he the most?
Would you rather have Piojo or next time hit or not as a manager? Those were your only choices.
The thing is it's tough. It's tough there because the way that the Piojo era ended was very bad. It's not like the team lost the team lost a lot of style after the World Cup. Everything went down the drain because in the Gold Cup it wasn't beautiful. It was all panicky and stuff. So I'm not completely sure. If it's good to bring in Piojo. But if that's the only choice, then maybe no. But that's another thing to say. I mean, it's
that thing too. Like we go back to the opportunities. How many young up and coming Mexican coaches get an opportunity? How many times does the league recycle coaches like crazy? Like the fact
for example,
that
I think it's a big story. The Santos manager, no, Fentanes, no, that he
he's Mexican.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Uh-huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He's worked from
Jimmy
the bottom.
too. I like what he's doing in Necaxa too. But the fact that the output of it, the input of we just don't get another one too. The guy who got third place with the under-20s at the World Cup, I don't think he's got an opportunity at the first division level either.
No. Ni La Pájara Chávez, no?
I think so.
That's the name, I believe. So I mean, it's a little bit of both, no? And it's also the preparation. Like you can make the argument, well, the Mexican manager is not so prepared like Martino and Osorio. I mean,
they're never going to be prepared if they don't get the opportunity too.
They don't get the opportunity,
but they also have to.
They also have to get out.
Players thing too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it goes with that.
The coaches also have to go out. If you have to go to Chile or to Peru to coach, go over there.
Or Finland or Norway, the most obscure.
Give yourself a shot. I know there's a coach over there in Asia that is also doing phenomenal. I don't know his name right now, but that's the kind of stuff Mexican managers also have to do.
The manager from Dominican Republic, he coached Dominican Republic for an Olympic. Him too. The fact that he got out, and he's not going to get opportunity here. Like he'll go over there.
And I think that's very important to do. I mean, then you grow your experiences, you have more knowledge, and I think that's also important. It will give you the ability to be one day a Mexican manager successful in Liga MX. The thing I think here, the issue is, I feel that the same treatment that the foreign manager has received in the last 8 years has to be equal with the Mexican manager. And with the Tata in this tenure losing to the U.S. in the Gold Cup final and in the Nations League final, I'm pretty sure if it was a Mexican manager, he would have been out. But because Martino, the manager that coached Argentina and coached in Barcelona. Maybe he wasn't so successful in those two places, but he was there, remain in the job, no? And let's see how this goes. Maybe right now we're talking. I'm criticizing this with Martino, and he takes the team to the fifth game, the so-coveted quinto partido. So, I mean, I think that it invites. I think this topic invites for different opinions, and you can have one.
It's super complicated too because
It's
you can go
complicated.
different directions. Like
Yeah,
even me
because,
right now, I can't really process it.
No, but the thing that it's very important to point out, because when for example Manolo Lapuente says, well, why isn't the coach that coaches the Mexican national team Mexican? I think he has a right to say that, because at the end of the day, the biggest successes that El Tri has had have been with a Mexican manager. And you see people like Mejia Baron, who's still involved in the game. He was pretty special in 1994, no, as well. So it goes to show that, for example, Hugo Sanchez, when he had his tenure, that he really wanted it and it went down the drain. Well, maybe Hugo shouldn't have coached the Olympic team, and he should have just focused on the senior team. But that's faults of the whole federation. That
Exactly. Like I said, it's a combination of everything too. Like it's
who
not
directs the
also solely
federation?
one person too.
That's where you say, well, the federation is not controlled by people that know about football. It's controlled by people that know about business. And that's one of the biggest issues that we've seen. Not now, but many, many years back. No? So
Yeah.
we'll see what people say on the comments there, Oscar. Thanks for your opinion. I think we went a little bit all over the place, I'd say, but I think it's a
Like
topic that
always.
invites you to go all over the place. We try to focus on something, just one thing, but it's hard with
But one
Mexican
thing
football.
pops up and it opens up a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah. No, so thanks, Oscar, for joining me. Have a great week, everyone. We'll try to post one of these every week. Thanks for watching, for listening, whatever. And enjoy the week, and make sure to comment, because I want to read your comments and read your opinion.
Thanks, guys. Take care.